Today's lesson is going to be about thesis statements, just some basic or some fundamental sort of concepts and ways of understanding thesis statements that should be useful for virtually any paper that you write in school. But particularly in particular, I should say, our third paper, the one that we're focusing on right now. Um, Here's our prompt for the third paper. But again, I'll just reiterate, these ideas and concepts can be used broadly for thesis statements. If it comes to different classes and different majors and things like that, you'll need to make some adjustments perhaps, but these are some pretty foundational ways of understanding thesis statements. You'll see the familiar sort of first page of our prompt. Here, we're slowing down a little bit and making considering what goes into an introduction. This is the second page of our prompt, and right here is what we're going to be talking about with this with this brief lesson today. Your introduction concludes with a thesis statement that sets up clear expectations for the direction of your essay by, in part, expressing your stance on the matter you'll discuss throughout your paper, which should include mention of the points you plan on developing and discussing. So keep that in mind. That's going to be sort of in focus for this lesson. Your thesis statement will briefly point to your evaluation of the visual text or images in terms of their messages, or if you think they're making some kind of argument. Your evaluation of their rhetorical strategies, a couple, two or three from each, and your evaluation of how effective they are. So you're going to be evaluating a lot in this paper, and your thesis statement needs to express some of that evaluation. Um, our objective then is by the end of this lesson, we're going to identify at least three ways of uh, three considerations, fundamental considerations of thesis statements. We'll look at a few examples, get a little practice, and hopefully begin to see the role that a thesis statement is going to play in our third paper. Or again, with most any paper you're going to write. A lot of us turn to search engines like Google to try and begin to come to terms with concepts that we're unfamiliar with. So let's just sort of go there. Thesis statements, according to Google, they tend to be specific. They don't tend to be. They're specific and focused. They should be anyway. Narrowing down your broad topic that you introduce early on in your introduction. And as you move through your introduction, the tendency is to gradually narrow the focus of your discussion so that you end up with this narrowly focused, manageable claim, not broad. It needs to be arguable, something that can be debated, something that you are going to bring some examples of or some support, both in the thesis statement and then corresponding in the discussion in your body paragraphs. Concise, we're thesis statements, again, there's not really a rule for this. We tend to want to try and limit ourselves here, not go on for pages and pages. Traditionally, we try to keep it to a sentence. Sometimes it's okay to have more than one sentence. We're going to try and keep it as a single sentence as best we can. It's just a good practice to practice writing effectively in a concise way. And thesis statements provide direction. That is, they're directional, they're predictive. Sometimes they refer to this as a roadmap effect, that when your reader comes across your thesis statement, they should have a reasonable idea or expectation of what is going to happen in the pages to come. So that's sort of the idea, at least according to Google, and I don't really take issue with much of that. It's a good place for us to be. So this is a document that I create with other classes. I I think I'm going to make a video working through it with y'all, or I just may make it available. I think I'll do both. I'll make it available to you, and as soon as I post this video, but I'll also make another video walking through it. It it looks like an introduction, so you can, an introduction is not going to be this little bitty 3 lines. Like a lot of times we tend to compose brief, very brief introductions. I want to try to expand and exercise your concept of introduction. So we're going to aim for a little bit longer. I want lots of context, lots of situating your reader. That happens usually up front here in the beginning of an intro. And then we move to this middle portion where we're introducing and transitioning to any source material or central texts or authors we may be discussing. And from there, we'll begin to transition then into the very narrowly focused thesis statement. That's this highlighted portion. That's what we'll be working on again today in this lesson. So let's just slow down and go over a couple of examples, a few examples. Um, these are for illustrative purposes only. They're not meant to be sort of emulated like a template, primarily because, well, we'll see. Um, Sentences like this, the sun will rise in the east and set in the west tomorrow. Think about this in terms of a thesis statement. If you were going to write a paper and this needed to be the thesis statement, are there any adjustments that you'd make? Are there any revisions that you'd make to this to perhaps make it a more effective thesis statement? Can this be a thesis statement at all? How about this one? I like reading classic literature. Is that thesis statement material? How about this? Alabama A&M is an institution of higher education in Alabama. Think about these. Are these thesis statements? Could we write a paper based off of these? As is. Not going to say yes or no. Just think about it. Um, Now think about similar sounding sentences with maybe just a very small change or two. How is this one? The sun will not rise in the east nor set in the west tomorrow. How is that much different from this one? This is sort of a statement of fact, kind of like all these. Well, this is an opinion. There's another statement of fact. So what did we do it here? What did we do with it here in this sentence? Now this isn't so much a statement of fact or of an opinion. This is beginning to become arguable. How about this? Everyone should only ever, what if someone said that to you? Take your favorite books to read, or let's say movies to watch, or your favorite media to consume, and somebody said you only can do this one. How would that strike you? This is probably getting to the idea of becoming arguable, something to take issue with. Alabama A&M is the best institution in Alabama. Again, look what we're doing here. We're making an acclaim. We're asserting a claim here with our language. And keep in mind how these are different from their counterparts that we first looked at. So just with a little bit of language, a little bit of words there, we take these maybe not so effective sentences as thesis statements, and we turn them into something that they're still not very effective thesis statements, but they're heading in a maybe a useful direction. Effective thesis statements need examples and reasons or support. So going with our slightly developed sentence. I'm not going to call it a thesis statement yet. The sun will not rise in the east nor set in the west tomorrow because. So this is one of the ways that we add some examples or reasons or support to our claims. If we're going to make this claim here, let's throw in a because. Let's give a reason to our reader why we think that. Now, this is a similar sort of the work that this word is doing is similar to because it's just a different arrangement. So, um, this person wants everyone to read classic literature only. And it's sort of like say, because I want everybody else to be as happy as me. Just because you offer some reasons or support, by the way, doesn't make these correct or right or anything. They're still plenty arguable. It's just I'm just showing you how we go from sentences that are utter statements of fact or opinion, and we build on them, and we add some language to it, we add some rhetoric to it, and they look different, they mean different things, they do different work, and that's the idea. Let's slow down then for a minute on this example. Alabama A&M is the best. So the idea is in terms of arguability, sort of like I was saying a moment ago, why would someone say this or think this? Suppose you, for a moment, which I hope you don't, but suppose you disagree with this. You might ask, well, why do you think that? What makes you say that? What proof do you have of that? And, you know, we're not sitting here, this isn't some kind of scientific experiment where we have to be correct. We're offering our stance, our position, and maybe we say, well, I think it's the best because, the faculty are accessible experts. That's certainly a good reason for someone to think it's the best school. The students, they're friendly and bright. Studying at AAMU gives me an advantage on the job market. So these are all reasons why somebody might make this claim. Again, this doesn't have to be right or correct or any kind of notion like that. My responsibility for making this case is just to have some reasons to back this up. Um, so we now here, let's take a look at a sort of new and improved thesis statement. Alabama A&M is the best in Alabama because, here's that word again. Hope you all get familiar with this word and use it. Because the expert faculty are accessible, it's the best because the students are friendly and bright. It's the best because studying there will give me an advantage on the job market. That's how this thesis statement starts to work. Okay. Now, this is sort of previewing something we'll work on maybe next week or so. The thesis statement, what does that do? What does that mean in terms of your overall paper? And in our case, for the third paper. Think about this in terms of the third paper. There's a relationship, or at least there should be, between the thesis statement and the topic sentences that lead off the body paragraphs. Many of you can take a look at your graded second papers and you'll have comments from me about topic sentences. This is sort of a little bit what we're talking about here. Thesis statements are so important because of what they mean for the rest of the paper. They aid in guiding and constructing or constituting the body of a paper. So Alabama A&M, this is the thesis statement once again. So I've sort of color coded things. You're obviously not going to do this in your paper, but this bolded section here, this is our main claim. Whenever we compose a topic sentence, that main claim ought to be in there in some way or other. And in each of our topic sentences, so this one's for the first body paragraph, we're only going to address one item at a time. If we lay out three examples or three reasons or three areas of support in our thesis statement, here represented by yellow and green and this bluish color, we're not going to jam all of these into one paragraph. Let's separate them out. In our first body paragraph, we're gonna say our main claim and we're gonna identify one area from our thesis that we're gonna talk about. So we say one of the main reasons Alabama A&M is the best is because of the expert and accessible faculty. From here, you could imagine a whole body paragraph giving examples and offering whatever evidence or proof you have that the faculty are experts and they're accessible, and that's why you think AAMU is the best. That's the idea here in a body paragraph. You lead off with this topic sentence and you focus on this one idea. For another body paragraph, because remember your thesis, you're going to want to talk about at least these three things. That's what you promised here in your thesis. We already did one. Now let's go on to the second one here. So we might say, in addition to this thing that I just talked about, in addition to the expert faculty, the accessible faculty. Another major reason AAMU is the best is because of the students. Then you have a whole paragraph about how awesome the students are. One of the things this does, I hope you can see, is we're taking language from the thesis statement, from the introduction, and we're using similar language, sometimes the same language in each of our topic sentences. This method of structuring a paper or organizing a paper, it goes to something that students are often concerned with, this idea of flow. This another way of saying flow is logical cohesion. So by doing this, by ordering our transitions is what we're doing here. We're transitioning from paragraph to paragraph in a way that is reflective of our thesis statement. That helps ensure a high degree of logical cohesion or flow in our paper. Finally, for a third body paragraph, since we promise once again we're going to at least discuss these three things in our thesis, we might say not only, remember, one of the main reasons, and in addition to that main reason, so not only is Alabama the best because of the faculty and because of the students, but also because it gives me an advantage on the job market. So this is this relationship between thesis statement and topic sentences, which anchor the body paragraphs. This is the relationship I'm hoping that you'll get from this and that you'll be aware of, keenly aware of as you start drafting out those parts of your third paper. Okay, that'll do it for this one. Um, Let me know if you have any questions or concerns.